The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, but nobody heard it. All eyes were fixed on Christopher Reid, the billionaire tech mogul, as he clutched his throat, his face turning an alarming shade of red. The lavish charity gala at the Reid estate had turned into a nightmare in seconds. 200 wealthy guests stood frozen in their designer gowns and tailored suits, their mouths open in shock, but no one moved. No one except Nadia Brown. Nadia had been refilling water glasses near the back wall when she saw him stumble. Her black maid's uniform was practically invisible among the glittering crowd, but her training kicked in immediately. She dropped her pitcher and ran, her sensible shoes squeaking on the polished floor. Christopher's eyes were wide with panic, his hands clawing at his collar. A piece of steak, she realized. He was choking. "Someone help him," a woman shrieked, but still, the crowd just stared. Nadia reached him just as his knees buckled. She caught him, smaller than him but steady, and without thinking, she did what she had learned in her first aid certification. She positioned herself, tilted his head back, and pressed her lips to his. She forced air into his lungs, once, twice, while simultaneously performing abdominal thrusts from behind. The crowd gasped. Camera phones appeared from everywhere, flashing like fireflies in the dimly lit ballroom. On the fourth breath, Christopher coughed violently. The piece of meat flew from his mouth onto the pristine floor. He gasped, sucking in air, his chest heaving as color slowly returned to his face. Nadia held him steady, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. He was alive. Thank God, he was alive. The moment seemed to last forever and no time at all. Christopher turned to look at her, his gray eyes meeting her brown ones, and something passed between them. Gratitude, shock, recognition. Then the spell broke. "Oh my God, did she just kiss him?" someone whispered loudly. "The maid kissed Christopher Reid," another voice hissed. "Is this some kind of stunt?" Nadia stepped back quickly, suddenly aware of what she'd done. Not the life-saving part, but how it must have looked. She'd put her lips on one of the richest men in the country, in front of everyone who mattered in high society. Her hands started shaking. Christopher's assistant, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia, pushed through the crowd. "Mr. Reid, are you all right? Should I call an ambulance?" "I'm fine," Christopher managed, his voice rough. He was still looking at Nadia. "She saved my life." "Nevertheless, we should get you checked out," Patricia said, already pulling out her phone. She barely glanced at Nadia. "You can go back to your duties." But Christopher caught Nadia's wrist gently as she turned to leave. "Wait. What's your name?" "Nadia, sir. Nadia Brown." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "Thank you, Nadia Brown." His grip was warm, his eyes sincere. "You saved me when no one else moved." She nodded, not trusting her voice, and slipped away into the kitchen. Behind her, she could hear the crowd erupting into excited chatter. She leaned against the cool steel of the industrial refrigerator, trying to calm her racing pulse. She'd done the right thing. She'd saved a man's life. So why did she feel like she'd just stepped off a cliff? In the ballroom, guests were already posting to social media. The hashtag #MaidKissedBillionaire was trending within minutes. Videos of the incident from multiple angles flooded the internet. Nadia Brown, a 26-year-old maid who'd been working at the Reid estate for 8 months, had just become an overnight sensation. And neither she nor Christopher Reid had any idea how completely that one desperate kiss was about to change both their lives. The kitchen supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, found Nadia 10 minutes later. "The family wants to see you in the morning," she said, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Reid's mother specifically requested your presence." Nadia's stomach dropped. She'd saved the man's life, but she knew how these things worked. The help didn't touch the family. Ever. And she certainly didn't kiss them in front of cameras. That night, Nadia lay awake in her small apartment, her phone buzzing constantly with notifications. Somehow, reporters had found her number. Friends she hadn't spoken to in years were calling. Her mother had left 6 voicemails. The video had been viewed 3 million times. In it, she looked tiny against Christopher's tall frame, her dark skin stark against his pale shirt, her lips pressed to his in what the internet was calling the most romantic rescue ever. Except it wasn't romance. It was CPR. It was saving a life. But try telling that to the internet. Have you ever had to make a split-second decision that changed everything? Drop a comment below with your story, and don't forget to subscribe to see what happens to Nadia next. Will she lose her job for saving her boss's life? Morning came too quickly. Nadia dressed carefully in her uniform, her hands still trembling slightly as she buttoned the black dress. She'd barely slept, spending most of the night reading comments on the videos. Some people called her a hero. Others said crueler things, questioning her motives, calling her opportunistic. A few even accused her of staging the whole incident for attention. The Reed estate looked different in daylight. Less magical, more imposing. The mansion sat on 12 acres in the prestigious Riverside neighborhood, all stone and glass and old money. Nadia had always entered through the service entrance, but today, Patricia met her at the front door. "Mrs. Reed is waiting in the morning room," Patricia said crisply. Her tone suggested this was not going to be a pleasant conversation. The morning room was all white furniture and fresh flowers. Mrs. Eleanor Reed sat in a high-backed chair, her silver hair perfectly styled, her posture rigid. She looked like old wealth personified. Christopher stood by the window, his back to them. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans, and a sweater, which somehow made him look more human than the tuxedo had. "Sit down, Miss Brown," Mrs. Reed said. It wasn't a request. Nadia sat on the edge of a pristine white sofa, her hands folded in her lap. She felt like she was on trial. "I've been informed you saved my son's life last night," Mrs. Reed began. "For that, I'm grateful. However, the manner in which you did so has created quite a situation." "Mother," Christopher turned from the window, his voice firm. "She saved my life. That's all that matters." "What matters, Christopher, is that the entire world now thinks our family is involved in some sort of scandal. The phones haven't stopped ringing. Your father's business partners are asking questions. And the media is camped outside our gates." Nadia felt her chest tighten. "I'm sorry. I was just trying to help." "I know." Mrs. Reed's expression softened slightly. "And you did help. But actions have consequences, my dear." Christopher moved to stand beside Nadia. "If anyone should apologize, it's me. I put Nadia in this position by choking in the first place." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Nadia, please accept this. It's a bonus for your quick thinking and bravery. $50,000. Nadia's eyes widened. $50,000. That was more than 2 years of her salary. "Mr. Reed, I can't." "You can, and you will," he interrupted gently. "You saved my life. That's worth more than money, but please, let me show my gratitude." She looked at the envelope, then at his face. He meant it. This wasn't pity or hush money. This was genuine gratitude. And she needed it. Her mother's medical bills were piling up. Her student loans were in default. This money could change everything. "Thank you," she said softly, taking the envelope. "Thank you so much." Mrs. Reed watched the exchange with keen eyes. "Patricia has arranged for additional security for you, Miss Brown. The media attention should die down in a few days, but until then, you'll need protection." "I don't understand." "You're famous now, dear," Mrs. Reed said dryly. "Whether you want to be or not. There are reporters trying to dig into your life as we speak. We'll handle it, but you need to be careful." The next few days proved Mrs. Reed right. Nadia couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. Her apartment building was staked out by photographers. Her phone never stopped ringing. Work became impossible as other staff members either avoided her or asked intrusive questions. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, moved her to a position in the private wing, away from areas where guests might see her. Christopher seemed to be dealing with his own fallout. Nadia glimpsed him in tense conversations with his father and various business associates. Once, she overheard him on the phone with someone, his voice tight with frustration. It was a medical emergency, not a relationship. "I don't care what the photos look like. No, I'm not dating her." Those words shouldn't have stung, but they did. On the 4th day after the incident, Nadia was cleaning the library when Christopher walked in. He looked tired, stress lines around his eyes. "Nadia, do you have a moment?" he asked. She set down her duster. "Of course, sir." He gestured to one of the leather chairs. "Please, sit. And call me Christopher." She sat, uncomfortable with the informality but not wanting to argue. Christopher sat across from her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "I wanted to apologize. This situation has spiraled out of control, and you're bearing the brunt of it. How are you holding up?" "I'm managing," she said carefully. "The security helps. And the money you gave me, it means everything. My mother's been sick, and she stopped, not wanting to overshare. I'm glad it helps." He was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking about a solution to all of this. Something that might benefit both of us." Nadia felt her pulse quicken. What kind of solution? Christopher met her eyes. What if we gave them the story they want? What if you agreed to pretend to be my girlfriend for a few months? Just until the media moves on to the next scandal. Nadia stared at Christopher, certain she'd misheard. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? I know it sounds absurd, Christopher said quickly. But hear me out. Right now, the media narrative is all speculation and gossip. They're inventing stories, digging into both our lives. If we controlled the narrative, gave them a simple romance story, they'd eventually lose interest. It happens all the time with celebrities. But I'm not a celebrity. I'm your maid. Which is exactly why this story is so appealing to them, Christopher said. Modern fairy tale, maid saves prince, they fall in love. Let them have their story. In 3 months, we'll have a quiet, amicable breakup. By then, some other scandal will have captured everyone's attention. Nadia's mind was racing. Why would you want this? You could date anyone. Actual socialites who know your world. Christopher's expression turned serious. Because everyone in my world wants something from me. Business connections, social status, my family's money. But you risked getting fired to save my life. You didn't think about cameras or consequences. That's rare, Nadia. And honestly, the women my mother tries to set me up with are exhausting. This arrangement would give me breathing room. And what would I get out of it? Nadia asked, though she could already guess. Compensation, Christopher said bluntly. $50,000 for each month you play this role. Plus, living quarters in the guest house instead of your apartment. Security. And when it's over, a glowing reference that will open doors for you anywhere you want to go. Also, I'll cover any courses or education you want to pursue. I remember you mentioned wanting to go back to school. Nadia's breath caught. $150,000. Full education paid. This was life-changing money. This was freedom from debt, from worry, from the endless cycle of barely making ends meet. She thought about her mother's face when she told her about the medical bills. She thought about her abandoned dreams of finishing college. What would I have to do? She asked quietly. Attend events with me. Let me take you to dinner occasionally. Be seen together in public. Act like we're dating when anyone's watching. Christopher pulled out a folder. I had my lawyer draw up a contract. Everything's outlined. You'd have your own space, your own life. This would just be a role you play when needed. Nadia took the folder, her hands shaking slightly. The contract was detailed but clear. 3 months. Specific compensation. Confidentiality clauses. An exit strategy. It was all very businesslike, which somehow made it feel less wrong. There's no pressure, Christopher added. If you say no, nothing changes. You keep your job, the bonus I already gave you, everything. But if you say yes, I think we can both benefit from this. She looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't the untouchable billionaire right now. He was just a man trying to solve a problem, offering her an opportunity that most people only dreamed about. And hadn't her therapist always said she needed to take more chances, to stop playing it safe? I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Take your time. Christopher stood. And Nadia? Whatever you decide, thank you for saving my life. That matters more than any of this other noise. That night, Nadia sat in her tiny apartment, the contract spread across her kitchen table. Her best friend Kiana sat across from her, reading through the pages with wide eyes. Wait, I can't use Kiana, let me think of another name. Her best friend Imani sat across from her, reading through the pages with wide eyes. Girl, this is insane, Imani said. But also, this is a lot of money. I know. And he's fine. Like, really fine. Imani, focus. I am focused. I'm focused on the fact that a billionaire wants to pay you to pretend to date him. Do you know how many romance novels start exactly like this? Nadia laughed despite her nerves. This isn't a romance novel. It's a business arrangement. Ham. Imani gave her a knowing look. You keep telling yourself that. But I saw the video, Nadia. The way he looked at you after you saved him? That wasn't just gratitude. You're imagining things. Maybe. Imani pushed the contract back across the table. But here's what I know. You've been struggling for years. Working yourself to death, trying to pay off debt, putting your dreams on hold. This money could change your life. And all you have to do is go to some fancy parties and let a gorgeous billionaire treat you nice for 3 months. Where's the downside? The downside is it's not real, Nadia said softly. What if I forget that? Imani reached across and squeezed her hand. Then you remember that you're Nadia Brown, and you're smart enough to know the difference between a job and reality. Take the opportunity, girl. You've earned it. The next morning, Nadia returned to the Reed estate and asked to speak with Christopher. He met her in his study, hope and nervousness clear on his face. I'll do it, Nadia said, before she could lose her nerve. I accept your offer. Christopher's face broke into a genuine smile. Really? Really? But I have one condition. Name it. We do this with complete honesty between us, Nadia said firmly. When it's just us, no pretending, no games. This is business, and we treat it that way. Can you agree to that? Christopher extended his hand. I can absolutely agree to that. Nadia shook his hand, feeling the warmth of his grip, the strength in his fingers. 3 months. She could do this for 3 months. What could possibly go wrong? The guest house was bigger than Nadia's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the estate's gardens, the furniture was designer quality, and the bathroom had a soaking tub she could practically swim in. Her few belongings looked lost in all the space. This is too much, she said, standing in the middle of the living room while Christopher showed her around. This is the smallest guest house on the property, he replied with a slight smile. Besides, you'll need space for all the new things. What new things? As if on cue, the doorbell rang. Christopher opened it to reveal 3 people carrying garment bags and equipment cases. A tall woman with purple streaked hair stepped forward first. Nadia? I'm Simone, your stylist. Christopher hired me to help with your wardrobe transition. She walked around Nadia, assessing her with a professional eye. Great bone structure, beautiful skin tone. We're going to have so much fun. Wardrobe transition? Nadia looked at Christopher. You'll be attending events in my world now, he explained. You'll need appropriate clothes. Simone is the best. A man with glasses stepped forward next. I'm Patrick, etiquette coach. I'll help you navigate high society events. Nothing major, just some tips on which fork to use and how to handle small talk with the ultra-wealthy. The third person, a friendly-looking woman, smiled warmly. And I'm Hannah, your personal assistant. I'll help coordinate your schedule, handle any media requests, and basically make your life easier. Nadia felt overwhelmed. I don't need all this. Yes, you do, Simone said cheerfully, already unpacking garment bags. Trust me, honey. The fashion blogs are already analyzing that uniform you wore in the video. By tomorrow, you'll be photographed everywhere you go. We need you camera ready. Christopher touched Nadia's shoulder gently. I know this is a lot. But remember, you agreed to this. Let them help you. They're good at what they do. Over the next 2 weeks, Nadia's life transformed completely. Simone filled 2 entire closets with designer clothes, everything from casual daywear to elegant evening gowns. She taught Nadia about fit, about how to dress for different occasions, about confidence and posture. It's not about the price tag, Simone explained while showing Nadia a simple black dress. It's about how you carry yourself. You could wear a paper bag and look stunning if you believed in yourself. Patrick's lessons were surprisingly interesting. He taught her about different types of wine, classical music, art history. Not to make her someone she wasn't, he explained, but to give her tools to feel comfortable anywhere. The secret about wealthy people. Patrick said during one session. Most of them are just as insecure as everyone else. They're just better at hiding it behind expensive clothes and practice small talk. Hannah became Nadia's lifeline. She screened phone calls, managed Nadia's new social media accounts. Christopher had insisted she needed them for authenticity, and somehow always knew exactly what Nadia needed before she asked. How did you end up working for Christopher? Nadia asked Hannah one afternoon. He put my kid brother through college, Hannah said simply. My family went through a rough time, and Christopher found out. He offered help, and unlike most people, he actually followed through. He's a good man, Nadia. Complicated, but good. Christopher himself was surprisingly present during her transition. He'd stop by the guest house to check on her progress, often bringing coffee or pastries from her favorite bakery. Somehow he'd figured out which one. They'd sit and talk, conversations flowing easily about everything and nothing. What made you want to be a maid? Christopher asked one evening. Nadia shrugged. It wasn't exactly a dream job. My mom got sick 3 years ago. Cancer. She's in remission now, but the medical bills destroyed us. I dropped out of college to work. Your estate paid well and offered health insurance. That's all I needed. What were you studying? Business administration. I wanted to open my own catering company someday. I love cooking, creating beautiful events. She smiled at the memory. Seems silly now. It's not silly at all, Christopher said seriously. And when this is over, you'll have the money to finish school and start your business. That was part of our deal. Why are you being so generous? Nadia asked. This is way more than our agreement required. Christopher was quiet for a moment. Because you saved my life without thinking about what you get out of it. That's rare in my world, Nadia. Everyone always wants something. But you just acted. Do you know how long those people stood there watching me choke? 7 seconds. I counted. 7 seconds of people in $10,000 dresses just staring while I couldn't breathe. And then you ran across that ballroom like your life depended on it. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't. You did. He held her gaze. So yeah, I'm generous with you. You earned it. 2 weeks after moving into the guest house, Nadia stood in front of her mirror, barely recognizing herself. Simone had styled her hair in elegant waves. Her makeup was perfect but subtle. The navy cocktail dress fit like it had been made for her, because it had. She looked like someone who belonged in Christopher's world. Ready? Christopher's voice came from the doorway. He'd knocked but she'd been too distracted to hear. She turned, and his expression shifted. For a moment, he just stared. You look beautiful, he said quietly. Simone's good at her job. It's not just Simone. He cleared his throat. Our first official appearance is tonight. Charity dinner at the Riverside Club. Are you nervous? Terrified, Nadia admitted. Christopher crossed the room and took her hand. Here's what we'll do. If at any point you feel overwhelmed, you squeeze my hand 3 times. That's our signal. I'll make an excuse and we'll leave. Deal? Deal. She felt some of her anxiety ease. And Nadia? Just be yourself. That's what made me suggest this arrangement in the first place. Don't try to be someone you're not. Even though that's literally what you're paying me to do, she asked with a small smile. Christopher laughed. Point taken. But I'm paying you to be my girlfriend, not to change who you are. There's a difference. As they walked to his car, Nadia felt a flutter of anticipation. This was it. The start of their public arrangement. 3 months of pretending, and then freedom. She just hoped she could remember it was all pretend. What would you do if you suddenly had to pretend to date a billionaire? Would you be able to keep your feelings separate from the role? Comment your thoughts below and subscribe to find out if Nadia can keep this strictly business. The Riverside Club was everything Nadia expected and nothing she was prepared for. Chandeliers dripped crystal. Oil paintings worth more than houses lined the walls. Every person who entered was dressed in clothes that cost more than her mother's mortgage. And all eyes were on her and Christopher as they walked through the massive entrance. Christopher Reed and guest, the attendant announced, and conversation stopped mid-sentence. Christopher's hand found the small of her back, warm and steady. Remember to breathe, he murmured. They moved through the crowd, and Nadia was acutely aware of the whispers, the stares, the way people's eyes traveled from her face down to her shoes and back up again, assessing, judging. But Christopher seemed oblivious to it all, greeting people warmly, his hand never leaving her. Christopher, darling. A woman in a red gown approached, her smile sharp. We've all been dying to meet your mystery woman. Nadia Brown, this is Vanessa Montgomery, Christopher said smoothly. Vanessa's family owns Montgomery Media. Vanessa extended a perfectly manicured hand. The maid who saved Christopher's life. How extraordinary. There was something in her tone that made Nadia's spine straighten. Former maid, she corrected gently. Nice to meet you. Oh, you quit working for the Reeds? How progressive. Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. Christopher, we really must catch up later. I have some business proposals Daddy wants to discuss. When Vanessa glided away, Christopher leaned close. Sorry about her. She's an ex. I gathered. Nadia watched Vanessa work the room with practiced ease. She doesn't seem happy about us. Vanessa's never happy about anything unless it benefits her. Christopher guided Nadia toward their table. Don't let her get to you. Dinner was a carefully choreographed dance. Nadia remembered Patrick's lessons, using the right silverware, making appropriate small talk with the couple across from them. The woman, Mrs. Hartley, was surprisingly kind. I think what you did was incredibly brave, Mrs. Hartley said warmly. Those society pages love to gossip, but saving a life is heroic no matter how you spin it. Thank you, Nadia said, genuinely grateful. And Christopher clearly adores you, Mr. Hartley added with a wink. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Nadia glanced at Christopher, who was deep in conversation with the man on his other side. He must have sensed her attention because he turned, caught her eye, and smiled. It was such an easy, natural smile that for a moment, Nadia forgot they were pretending. Halfway through dinner, Vanessa stopped by their table. Christopher, dance with me? For old time's sake. Christopher looked ready to refuse, but Nadia touched his hand. Go ahead. I'll be fine. She watched them move to the dance floor, watched Vanessa press close to Christopher, saying something that made his jaw tighten. A cold sensation settled in Nadia's stomach, and she forced herself to look away. They used to be engaged, Mrs. Hartley said quietly. Last year. Everyone thought they'd marry, but Christopher broke it off rather suddenly. I didn't know that, Nadia admitted. Vanessa's father was furious. It cost him some business opportunities. She's been trying to win Christopher back ever since. Mrs. Hartley patted Nadia's hand. Don't worry, dear. That young man only has eyes for you. When Christopher returned, he looked irritated. Sorry about that. Vanessa can be persistent. It's fine, Nadia said, though something in her chest felt tight. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions and small talk. Christopher was attentive, always including her in conversations, explaining context when she looked confused. Several times, people made subtle digs about her background, but Christopher shut them down smoothly without making a scene. As they left, photographers waited outside. Camera flashes exploded like lightning as Christopher helped Nadia into the car. He slid in beside her, and suddenly they were cocooned in relative silence, the chaos of the evening muffled by tinted windows. You did amazing, Christopher said. Seriously, you handled that better than I expected. I was scared the whole time, Nadia admitted. You didn't show it. He reached over and squeezed her hand. Thank you for going along with the Vanessa thing. I know that was awkward. She still has feelings for you. She has feelings for my bank account and social status, Christopher corrected. We were never right for each other. I realized that before I proposed, but I did it anyway because it was expected. Breaking off the engagement was the smartest thing I ever did. Why did you propose if you knew it was wrong? Christopher was quiet for a long moment. Because sometimes it's easier to do what everyone expects than to figure out what you actually want. My father wanted the business alliance. My mother wanted me settled down. Vanessa wanted the lifestyle. And I was too tired to fight them all. What changed? I woke up one morning and realized I was building a prison for myself. A very comfortable, very expensive prison, but a prison nonetheless. He turned to look at her. Life's too short to live it for other people's expectations. The car pulled up to the estate, and Christopher walked Nadia to the guest house door. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of jasmine from the gardens. Wait, I can't use jasmine. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of roses from the gardens. Tonight was your first test, Christopher said. And you passed with flying colors. It felt weird, everyone staring. You'll get used to it. And Nadia? He hesitated. I meant what I said in there. You really do look beautiful tonight. Before she could respond, he leaned in and kissed her cheek, lingering just long enough that she felt the warmth of his breath. Good night, he said softly, then walked away toward the main house. Nadia stood frozen, her hand touching the spot where his lips had been. It was just part of the act, she told herself. They'd been in view of the security cameras. It meant nothing. But her racing heart disagreed. Inside the guest house, she changed out of her dress and sat by the window, looking across the grounds to the main house. She could see lights on in what she knew was Christopher's study. She wondered if he was thinking about the evening, if he felt the same strange confusion she did. This was supposed to be simple. A business arrangement. But somewhere between dinner and dancing, between his protective hand on her back and the way he defended her to strangers, something had shifted. Or maybe she was just tired and reading too much into practice gestures. 3 months, she reminded herself. Just 3 months, and then she'd go back to her real life with enough money to start fresh. She couldn't afford to forget that. Even if her heart was starting to have other ideas. 3 weeks into their arrangement, Nadia's life had settled into a strange new rhythm. She spent mornings with her laptop, working on the online business courses Christopher had enrolled her in. Afternoons were for scheduled appearances, shopping trips where photographers just happened to be present, or lunch dates at restaurants with floor-to-ceiling windows. Every public moment was documented, posted, analyzed. But it was the private moments that confused her. Like now, sitting in Christopher's study on a rainy Tuesday evening, both of them working quietly. He'd invited her in when she'd passed by, saying he enjoyed the company. She was reviewing course materials while he handled emails, classical music playing softly in the background. It felt domestic, comfortable, real. "I have to go to Chicago next week," Christopher said, breaking the silence. "Business conference. 4 days. You'd need to come with me." "Okay," Nadia said, making a note in her calendar. "We'll have separate hotel rooms," he added quickly. "But there are some events you'd need to attend. A gala, a few business dinners. Hannah will make sure you have everything you need." "Christopher." Nadia closed her laptop. "You don't have to explain everything. I understand the arrangement." "I know. I just don't want you to feel pressured." "I don't." She studied him across the desk. "Can I ask you something?" "Always. Do you ever get tired of all this? The events, the expectations, the performance?" Christopher leaned back in his chair, considering. "Every single day. When I was younger, I thought I'd escape it. Go to college somewhere far away, maybe work for a different company, build something of my own. But then my father had his first heart attack, and I was the oldest son, and there were obligations." He smiled wryly. "Read men don't abandon their responsibilities." "That sounds lonely." "It is." He looked surprised by his own admission. "I have business associates, family connections, social acquaintances. But actual friends? People who want to spend time with me rather than with my bank account? Those are rare." "Is that why you eat dinner in here most nights instead of with your family?" Christopher's eyebrows rose. "How did you know that?" "I see the meal trays coming back to the kitchen. It's usually just one setting." Nadia stood and wandered to the bookshelf, running her fingers along the spines. "For what it's worth, I think you're more interesting than your bank account." "Careful, Nadia. Compliments like that might make me think you actually like me." She turned, ready with a witty response, but his expression was softer than his words. Something in her chest tightened. "You're not terrible company," she said lightly. Over the next few days, they fell into an easy pattern of companionship. Christopher started inviting Nadia to dinner in the small dining room off the kitchen, away from his family's formal meals. They'd talk about everything and nothing: her college courses, his frustrations with board meetings, childhood memories, dreams for the future. "My mother wanted me to be a teacher," Nadia told him one evening. "She used to say I had a gift for explaining things, for making complicated ideas simple." "Why didn't you?" "Teachers don't make enough money to support sick parents and pay student loans." Nadia shrugged. "Life doesn't always care about our gifts." "Maybe not. But you still have time to change directions. You're only 26. Says the man who became a CEO at 30. "Exactly. I'm ancient. You're practically a baby." His eyes crinkled with amusement. "Think of all the things you could still do." These conversations felt dangerous. They were too real, too intimate. Nadia kept reminding herself this was temporary, that Christopher was just being kind, that she was reading too much into friendly gestures. But then he'd do something that blurred all her careful boundaries. Like the afternoon he found her crying in the garden after a phone call with her mother. He didn't ask questions, just sat beside her on the bench and handed her his handkerchief. They sat in silence for 20 minutes, his shoulder warm against hers, until she was ready to talk. Or the morning he surprised her with coffee from her favorite shop, having remembered her complicated order from a casual mention weeks ago. Oat milk latte with an extra shot and vanilla, no sugar. Or the night after a particularly brutal society event where a woman had loudly questioned whether Nadia had trapped Christopher with a kiss. He'd driven her home, walked her to the door, and said fiercely, "You're worth 10 of those people. Don't ever let them make you feel less." "You don't have to defend me," Nadia had whispered. "It's not part of our deal." "Forget the deal," Christopher said. "I defend people I care about." People I care about. Those words echoed in her mind for days. The night before their Chicago trip, Christopher knocked on the guesthouse door around 10. Nadia opened it to find him holding 2 containers of ice cream. "Couldn't sleep," he explained. "Thought you might want some company." They ended up on her couch, eating ice cream and watching a nature documentary. Christopher stretched out on one end, Nadia curled up on the other, their feet almost touching in the middle. "Can I confess something?" Christopher said during a commercial break. "Sure. I'm actually nervous about Chicago. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny. My father will be there, business rivals, people who think you're just a gold digger using me. Are you having second thoughts about our arrangement?" "No." He said it firmly. "I'm having second thoughts about asking you to deal with all this judgment. Sometimes I forget that you're not used to my world, that this is harder for you than for me." Nadia set down her ice cream. "Christopher, I'm a grown woman who made a choice. You offered me an opportunity, and I took it. Whatever comes with that, I can handle. You're stronger than I am." "I really don't think that's true." They sat in comfortable silence, watching penguins slide across Antarctic ice. Nadia felt her eyelids getting heavy. At some point, she must have dozed off, because she woke up covered with a blanket, the TV off, and Christopher gone. A note on the coffee table read, "Didn't want to wake you. Sleep well. See." Nadia held the note, staring at his handwriting, feeling something shift in her chest. This was a problem. She was developing feelings for a man she was paid to pretend to date. A man who would say goodbye in a few weeks and move on to his real life while she returned to hers. She needed to remember that. She needed to protect her heart. But as she got ready for bed, she caught herself smiling at the memory of his laughter, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about things he cared about, the gentleness in his hands when he'd covered her with the blanket. 3 months suddenly felt both too long and not long enough. Chicago was everything Christopher had warned her about and more. The hotel was absurdly luxurious, all marble and gold accents. Their rooms were on the penthouse level, connected by a shared living area that Hannah explained was typical for couples in their social circle. The first night's gala was a gauntlet of curious stares and barely concealed judgment. Nadia wore a stunning emerald green dress that Simone had chosen specifically for the event, saying it would make a statement. It did, but not the one Nadia wanted. She heard whispers everywhere: gold digger, opportunist, social climber. Christopher stayed close, his hand a constant presence on her back or around her waist. But even his proximity couldn't shield her from all of it. "That's the maid," she heard someone say. Can you imagine? She probably can't even use proper grammar. Christopher's jaw tightened, and Nadia squeezed his hand. Their signal, reversed. She was okay. She could handle it. His father, Richard Reed, was a silver-haired version of Christopher with harder eyes. He assessed Nadia the way someone might evaluate a questionable stock purchase. "Miss Brown," he said coolly, "my son speaks highly of you." "Thank you, Mr. Reed. Though I must admit, this relationship is quite sudden. One moment Christopher is single, the next is bringing a date to major business functions." "Sometimes the best things happen unexpectedly," Nadia replied evenly. Richard's lips twitched. It might have been approval. "Indeed. Well, try not to embarrass the family name." After he walked away, Christopher looked furious. "I'm sorry." "He's always like that." "It's fine." "It's not fine." Christopher pulled her aside, away from listening ears. "You don't deserve to be treated like you're not good enough." "Christopher." Nadia touched his face, forgetting for a moment they were in public, forgetting this was supposed to be an act. "I really am okay. I've dealt with worse." His hand covered hers, holding it against his cheek. "You shouldn't have to deal with it at all." Later that night, back in their hotel suite, Nadia kicked off her heels and collapsed on the couch. Christopher brought her a glass of water and sat beside her. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "For handling everything with grace." "Part of the job," Nadia said, trying to keep her tone light. "Stop saying that." She looked at him in surprise. "What?" "Stop acting like this is just a job to you. Like you're just playing a role." Christopher's expression was intense. "You're not just my fake girlfriend tonight, Nadia. You're my friend. Maybe my only real friend." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning Nadia wasn't sure she should examine too closely. The next morning, Christopher woke Nadia early with a knock on her door. "Get dressed. Something casual. I want to show you something." He took her to the Art Institute of Chicago, arriving before it opened to the public. Somehow he'd arranged a private tour, just the two of them wandering through galleries filled with masterpieces. Nadia stood in front of a Monet, entranced by the colors and light. "I come here when I'm in Chicago," Christopher said quietly. "It reminds me there's more to life than board meetings and profit margins. Beauty for its own sake. Art that exists just because someone felt compelled to create it." It's wonderful, Nadia breathed. They spent 2 hours there, Christopher sharing what he knew about different artists, Nadia asking questions and offering her own observations. It felt like a date, a real date, and Nadia had to keep reminding herself it wasn't. That afternoon, while Nadia was supposed to be preparing for another business dinner, Hannah knocked on her door with a large envelope. "This came for you," Hannah said, looking curious. "From Christopher." Inside was a letter and several documents. Nadia's hands shook as she read Christopher's handwriting. "Nadia, I've been thinking about what you told me, about wanting to finish school and start your own catering business. I've taken the liberty of looking into some options. Enclosed you'll find full enrollment at Northwestern University's business program, starting next semester. All tuition and expenses covered. Information about commercial kitchen spaces available for rent in your area. A business consultation with one of the best restaurant consultants in the country, already paid for. Seed money for your business, whenever you're ready to start it. $100,000, no strings attached. This isn't about our arrangement. This is about me believing in you and wanting to see you chase your dreams. You saved my life, Nadia. Let me help you start living yours. Christopher." Nadia sat on the bed, tears streaming down her face. This was beyond generous. This was life-changing. This was everything she'd ever wanted but never thought she could have. When Christopher returned from his afternoon meetings, Nadia was waiting in the shared living room. She stood as he entered, the envelope clutched in her hands. "Christopher, this is too much," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It's not nearly enough." "But our deal, I'm already getting." "Forget the deal," Christopher interrupted, closing the distance between them. "This isn't part of any agreement. This is me wanting to help someone I care about reach their potential." "Why?" Nadia whispered. "Why would you do all this for me?" Christopher cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "Because you deserve it. Because you're brilliant and capable and you've been held back by circumstances beyond your control. Because watching you light up when you talk about your dreams makes me want to move mountains to make them come true." They stood there, inches apart, his hands warm on her face, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. For a moment, she wanted him to. But then he stepped back, clearing his throat. "You don't have to decide now. Just, think about it. Please." Nadia nodded, not trusting her voice. That night at the business dinner, she couldn't stop looking at Christopher across the table. Couldn't stop thinking about his words, his touch, the way he'd looked at her. This was supposed to be fake. A business arrangement. But nothing about the way her heart raced when he was near felt fake. Nothing about the way he looked at her felt like acting. After dinner, they walked back to the hotel through Chicago's illuminated streets. Christopher had dismissed their car, saying he wanted to walk. They moved through the crowds, close but not touching, both lost in thought. "Are you upset with me?" Christopher finally asked. "For overstepping with the school and business stuff?" "No," Nadia said honestly. "I'm overwhelmed. Grateful. Confused." "Confused about what?" She stopped walking, turning to face him. People flowed around them like water around stones. "Confused about what this is. What we are. This was supposed to be simple, Christopher. Pretend dating for 3 months. But you're offering me a future, investing in my dreams, being impossibly kind. And I don't know if you're just being generous or if there's something else happening here." Christopher stared at her for a long moment. The city lights reflected in his eyes. "What if I said there is something else happening?" Nadia's breath caught. "Then I'd say this is getting complicated." Complicated isn't always bad. It is when there's a contract with an expiration date. Christopher reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Then maybe we need to talk about that contract. About what happens when the 3 months are up." "Christopher." "Not now," he said gently. "We still have time. But Nadia, I want you to know something. You're not just an arrangement to me anymore. I don't know exactly what you are, but it's more than that. Much more." They stood there on the busy Chicago sidewalk, holding hands, the truth hanging between them like a promise or a threat. Nadia didn't know which. But she knew her heart was no longer safely her own. And that terrified her more than any judgmental socialite or complicated business dinner ever could. Vanessa Montgomery appeared at the Chicago conference the next morning like a storm cloud on a sunny day. She was scheduled to speak on a panel about media innovation, her family's company being one of the largest in the industry. Christopher's face tightened when he saw her name in the program. I didn't know she'd be here, he muttered. It's fine, Nadia said, though her stomach twisted. Something about Vanessa set her on edge. The panel went smoothly enough, but afterwards, Vanessa made a beeline for Christopher. She looked perfect in a tailored white suit, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo. Christopher, darling. She kissed his cheek, her hand lingering on his arm. And Nadia, how lovely. Still playing house with my Christopher, I see. Vanessa. Christopher's voice was cool. I'm not your anything. We've been over this. Have we though? Vanessa's smile was sharp. Because I've been hearing interesting rumors. About contracts and arrangements. About how sudden this romance of yours was. Her eyes fixed on Nadia. Tell me, dear, how much is he paying you to play the devoted girlfriend? Nadia felt the blood drain from her face. Christopher stepped between them immediately. That's enough, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Whatever you think you know. Oh, I know plenty. Vanessa's expression turned calculating. I have friends who work in the estate, Christopher. Friends who hear things. Like how your little maid here went from scrubbing floors to living in the guest house overnight. How convenient that life-saving kiss was, wasn't it? You're out of line, Christopher said. Am I? Or am I the only one willing to say what everyone's thinking? Vanessa looked past him to Nadia. How long do you think this will last, sweetheart? Once the novelty wears off, once he's gotten whatever he wanted from this arrangement, you'll be right back where you started. Used and discarded. You don't know anything about us, Nadia said, finding her voice. I know Christopher. I know how he works, how his family works. You're a temporary distraction at best. Vanessa's smile turned pitying. I almost feel sorry for you. Almost. Christopher grabbed Nadia's hand and pulled her away, his jaw clenched so tight she worried he'd crack his teeth. They didn't speak until they were back in their hotel suite, the door firmly closed behind them. She's lying, Christopher said immediately. About having sources in the house, about knowing anything real. She's just trying to cause trouble. But what if she's not lying? Nadia sank onto the couch. What if someone did talk? What if she exposes our arrangement? Then we deal with it. How? By admitting it's all fake. Nadia looked up at him. That would destroy you, Christopher. Your business reputation, your family's name, everything. I don't care about that. Yes, you do. And you should. Nadia pressed her hands to her face. This is exactly what I was afraid of. That it would all blow up and you'd be the one hurt by it. Christopher sat beside her, pulling her hands away from her face. Listen to me. Vanessa is bitter because I chose to end our engagement. She's been trying to get back at me ever since. This is just her latest attempt. What if she has proof though? What if there really is someone at the estate who knows the truth? Even if there is, so what? Christopher's grip on her hands tightened. So what if people find out we started as an arrangement? The important thing is what we've become since then. And what have we become? Nadia asked softly. Christopher opened his mouth, then closed it. Before he could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and cursed. It's my father. I need to take this. He stepped into his room, leaving Nadia alone with her spiraling thoughts. She pulled out her own phone and found 3 missed calls from Imani. She called back immediately. Girl, are you okay? Imani asked without preamble. I've been seeing stuff online about some ex of Christopher's causing drama. Where are you seeing this? Social media. Someone recorded a confrontation between Christopher and a blonde woman at some conference. The comments are going crazy, speculating about who she is and what they were arguing about. Nadia closed her eyes. Of course someone had filmed it. Someone always filmed everything. It's complicated. Talk to me. What's going on? Nadia found herself pouring out everything. The concerns about Vanessa knowing the truth, her fear that the arrangement would be exposed, her confusion about her own feelings. Imani listened without interrupting. Okay, Imani said when Nadia finished. Real talk time. Do you have feelings for this man? I don't know. Maybe. Yes. Nadia slumped back against the couch. But it doesn't matter, does it? This whole thing has an expiration date. Does it though? Because from what you've told me, Christopher's not treating this like a temporary arrangement. He's enrolling you in school, helping with your business, getting jealous when his ex shows up. Those aren't fake boyfriend behaviors, Nadia. But what if I'm just reading too much into things? What if he's just being kind and I'm confusing it for something more? Then you need to have a conversation with him. An honest one. Because whatever this started as, it's clearly become something else. And you both need to figure out what that something is. When Christopher emerged from his room 20 minutes later, he looked exhausted. My father heard about the Vanessa incident. He's not happy. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Christopher sat beside her again. But he does think we should consider ending the arrangement early. To avoid any potential scandal. Nadia's heart dropped. Oh. I told him no. Christopher's voice was firm. I told him this is my life and my decision. Christopher, maybe he's right. Maybe we should just. Do you want to end this? Christopher asked, turning to face her fully. Because if you do, if you're unhappy or scared or done with all of this, just tell me. I'll double your payment and we'll go our separate ways. No hard feelings. I don't want your money, Nadia said quietly. Then what do you want? The question hung between them, loaded with everything they'd been dancing around for weeks. Nadia opened her mouth to answer, but a sharp knock on the door interrupted them. It was Hannah, looking stressed. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a problem. A gossip blog is running a story claiming they have evidence your relationship is fake. They're saying they'll publish everything tomorrow unless Christopher agrees to an exclusive interview. Christopher's expression turned murderous. Vanessa. Most likely, Hannah agreed. She has connections with that particular blogger. What do you want to do? Nadia watched Christopher's face cycle through emotions. Anger, frustration, worry. Finally, he looked at her. It's up to you. We can do the interview and try to control the narrative. Or we can ignore it and let them publish whatever they want. Either way, this is about to get messy. What would you lose if they publish? Nadia asked. Business opportunities, probably. Some respect in certain circles. My father's good opinion, which I lost years ago anyway. Christopher shrugged. But I'll survive. The question is, what would you lose? Nadia thought about her mother, about the online courses she was taking, about the dreams Christopher had helped her start building. If this scandal broke, her name would be dragged through every gossip site and social media platform. She'd be labeled a gold digger, a liar, a fraud. But she'd also be free from the pretense. Free from the constant performance of being someone she wasn't. Let them publish, she said finally. I'm done playing games. Christopher's eyes widened. Are you sure? No. But I'm sure that I'm tired of caring what people like Vanessa think. You once told me life's too short to live for other people's expectations. Maybe it's time I started believing that. A slow smile spread across Christopher's face. That's the Nadia who ran across a ballroom to save a stranger's life. That's the woman he stopped abruptly. The woman you what? Nadia prompted, her heart racing. But before Christopher could answer, Hannah's phone rang. She answered, listened, then turned pale. The blog just published early. It's already going viral. And just like that, everything changed. The article was brutal. Anonymous sources, claimed documentation, quotes from unnamed estate employees. It painted Nadia as a calculating opportunist who'd staged the kiss and manipulated Christopher into a fake relationship for money. It questioned every public appearance they'd made, analyzing body language and interactions for signs of inauthenticity. Within hours, it was everywhere. News sites picked it up. Social media exploded. Nadia's phone became unusable from the volume of notifications. The hotel had to increase security as reporters gathered in the lobby. Christopher's phone rang constantly. His father, his board members, business associates, all demanding explanations. He ignored them all, staying close to Nadia, who sat frozen on the couch, watching her life implode in real time. I should go, she said finally. This is only going to get worse if we're seen together. No. Christopher's voice was steel. We face this together. Christopher, be reasonable. Your company stock is already dropping. Your father is threatening to remove you from the board. If I leave, if we announce a breakup, maybe you can salvage. I don't want to salvage anything if it means losing you. Nadia stared at him. What? Christopher knelt in front of her, taking her hands. I don't care what the articles say. I don't care what my father thinks or what the board wants. I care about you, Nadia. Not the arrangement, not the role you've been playing. You. The woman who tells me when I'm being ridiculous, who gets excited about business courses, who saves lives without thinking about consequences. This isn't real, Nadia whispered, tears streaming down her face. We made a deal. This was all supposed to be pretend. Does this feel pretend to you? Christopher's grip tightened. Because it stopped feeling pretend to me weeks ago. Somewhere between late-night ice cream and morning museum visits, between watching you light up over college enrollment and seeing you handle my world with more grace than people born into it, I fell for you. Really fell. You can't mean that. I mean every word. Christopher reached up to wipe her tears. I know the timing is terrible. I know everything is falling apart around us. But Nadia, I need you to know that whatever started as an arrangement became real for me. You became real for me. A sharp knock interrupted them. Hannah entered looking frantic. Christopher, your family is downstairs. All of them. They're demanding to see you both. The Reed family had taken over a private conference room. Christopher's parents sat at the head of the table, his younger sister Rachel beside them. His father looked furious, his mother concerned. Rachel looked curious. Sit down, Richard Reed commanded. Christopher remained standing, keeping Nadia's hand in his. Whatever you're going to say it. This article, Richard slapped a tablet on the table. Is it true? Is your relationship with this woman a fabricated arrangement? It started as one, Christopher said evenly. Yes. Nadia felt Eleanor Reed's sharp intake of breath. Rachel leaned forward, eyes wide. You admit it. Richard stood, his voice rising. You admit to lying to us, to the media, to everyone. I admit to making a mutually beneficial agreement with someone who saved my life. Christopher's voice stayed calm. An agreement that evolved into something neither of us expected. Evolved? This is a business arrangement, Christopher. This woman was your employee. This woman has a name, Nadia said quietly, finding her voice. And yes, Mr. Reed, I agreed to pretend to date your son. He offered me money and opportunities one desperately needed, and I accepted. But everything that's happened since then, every feeling that's developed, that's been real. How convenient, Richard sneered. Dad, stop. Rachel spoke up for the first time. Can't you see they care about each other? This isn't about feelings. This is about the family reputation, about business, about control, Christopher interrupted. That's what this has always been about. You controlling my life, my choices, who I date, who I marry. I'm done with that. Then you're done with this company, Richard said coldly. I'll have the board vote to remove you. Don't think I won't. Do what you need to do. Christopher's voice was steel. But I'm not walking away from Nadia to please you or anyone else. Eleanor Reed had been quiet through this exchange. Now she stood, moving around the table to face Nadia directly. Tell me honestly, Miss Brown. Do you love my son? Nadia felt everyone's eyes on her. This was the moment of truth, the point where she could salvage something from this disaster by lying. She could say it was all fake, take her payment, walk away. Let Christopher rebuild without her. But she was so tired of pretending. Yes, she said simply. I love him. I didn't plan to. I didn't want to. But somewhere along the way, I fell in love with your son. The room went silent. Christopher's hand tightened around hers. Eleanor studied Nadia for a long moment, then smiled. Good. Because I've watched Christopher these past months, and I haven't seen him this happy in years. Whatever this started as, it's become something real. I can see that. Eleanor, you can't be serious, Richard sputtered. I'm completely serious. Eleanor turned to her husband. You wanted Christopher to settle down, to find someone. Well, he has. Someone who saved his life, who handles our world with dignity, who clearly makes him happy. What more do you want? I want someone appropriate. Someone from our world who understands. Someone you can control, Christopher interjected. Like Vanessa. Someone who'll play by your rules and never challenge you. Christopher, Eleanor began. No, Mom. Dad needs to hear this. Christopher faced his father squarely. I've spent 32 years trying to be the son you wanted. The perfect Reed heir. But I'm done. I'm done pretending, done performing, done choosing your approval over my own happiness. If that means losing my position in the company, so be it. You'd throw away everything we've built for a woman you've known 3 months. Richard demanded. I'd throw it away for her in a heartbeat. Christopher looked at Nadia, his expression soft. Because she's worth more than any company or family legacy or social standing. She sees me, really sees me, and she stayed anyway. Rachel started clapping. Finally. Finally, you're standing up for yourself. Rachel, Richard warned. No, Dad. Christopher's right. You've been controlling his life forever. Maybe it's time to let him make his own choices, even if they're not the ones you'd make. The argument continued, voices rising and overlapping. But Nadia barely heard it. She was too focused on Christopher, on the way he'd stood up to his father, on the words he'd spoken. He loved her. He'd said it in front of his family, risking everything. Finally, Eleanor raised her hand for silence. Enough. Richard, you can try to remove Christopher from the board if you want. But I'll vote against you. So will Rachel. So will half the board who actually respect Christopher's work. You'll lose. Richard stared at his wife in shock. You'd side against me? I'm siding with my son's happiness. There's a difference. Eleanor turned to Christopher and Nadia. You two have my blessing. Do what you need to do. We'll handle the fallout. As they left the conference room, Nadia felt like she was floating. Everything had been exposed, every secret laid bare, and somehow, they'd survived it. Christopher pulled her into an empty hallway and kissed her. Really kissed her, not the careful, performative kisses for cameras, but a deep, desperate kiss that spoke of feelings too big for words. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Christopher rested his forehead against hers. I meant everything I said in there. I know. So what happens now? He asked. Nadia smiled. Now we figure out what real looks like. 2 days later, back at the Reed estate, Nadia stood in the guest house surrounded by her things. The contract's 3 months were technically up in 2 weeks, but everything had changed. The arrangement was over, exposed, finished. She needed to decide what came next. Christopher had given her space, respecting her need to think. But she knew he was waiting for an answer. Waiting to see if she'd stay or go. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Eleanor Reed standing there, looking less intimidating in casual clothes than she had in the conference room. May I come in? Eleanor asked. Nadia stepped aside, gesturing to the couch. Eleanor sat, looking around the space with interest. This is nice, she said. Comfortable. Mrs. Reed, if you're here to convince me to leave. I'm here to do the opposite. Eleanor met her eyes. I wanted to apologize for my husband's behavior. And to thank you. Thank me? For bringing my son back to life. Eleanor's expression softened. After he broke up with Vanessa, Christopher became closed off. He went through the motions, did his job, attended events, but there was no joy in him. And then you came along, and suddenly he was laughing again. Arguing with his father. Standing up for what he wanted. You gave him that. He's the one who helped me, Nadia said. The school, the business opportunities, all of it. That's what Christopher does. He sees people's potential and wants to help them reach it. But you gave him something more valuable than money or connections. You gave him permission to be himself. Eleanor stood, moving to the window. Can I tell you something? When Richard and I married, it was a business arrangement. Our families wanted the alliance, and we went along with it. You didn't love him? Not at first. But over time, through raising children and building a life together, love grew. Real love, complicated and messy and wonderful. Eleanor turned back to Nadia. What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter how a relationship starts. What matters is what you build from it. Your husband doesn't agree. My husband is proud and stubborn. But he's not stupid. He'll come around, eventually. The question is, what do you want? Because this is your choice, Nadia. Not ours, not the media's, not anyone else's. Just yours. After Eleanor left, Nadia sat by the window, watching the sun set over the gardens. She thought about the past 3 months, about how much had changed. She'd gone from barely surviving to having opportunities she'd only dreamed about. She'd found her voice, her strength, her purpose. And she'd found Christopher. Another knock, softer this time. She knew who it was before she opened the door. Christopher stood there, holding 2 coffee cups. Peace offering? Or goodbye drink? Your choice. Nadia took one of the cups, letting him inside. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, the same position they'd been in countless times before. But this time felt different. Final, somehow. I've been thinking, Christopher said. About what happens next. And I want you to know, whatever you decide, I'll support it. If you want to take the money and go, start your new life somewhere else, I understand. I won't make this harder for you. Christopher. Let me finish. He set down his coffee, turning to face her fully. These past months with you have been the best of my life. Not because of the arrangement or the pretending, but because of the real moments. The late-night conversations, the quiet dinners, the way you call me out when I'm being ridiculous. You make me want to be better, do better. But I also know I've complicated your life in ways you never asked for. You've also made my life better in ways I never imagined, Nadia said softly. Have I? Or have I just traded one set of problems for another? Media scrutiny, family drama, social judgment. Nadia set down her own coffee and moved closer to him. Do you remember what you said to me that first night, when you offered me this arrangement? Which part? The part about life being too short to live for other people's expectations. She took his hand. I've spent my whole life playing it safe. Taking the practical path, the one that made sense. And you know what? I was miserable. Working myself to death, watching my dreams slip further away, convinced that was just how life worked. Nadia. Then you offered me a chance. A crazy, risky, complicated chance. And I took it because I needed the money, but I stayed because you made me believe I could be more than I thought I was. You saw potential in me that I'd stopped seeing in myself. Christopher's eyes were intense, hopeful. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done playing it safe. I'm done letting fear make my decisions. She moved closer, cupping his face in her hands. I'm choosing you, Christopher. Not the money, not the opportunities, though those are wonderful. I'm choosing you because I love you. Because you make me laugh and challenge me and believe in me. Because being with you feels like coming home. The smile that broke across Christopher's face was the most beautiful thing Nadia had ever seen. He kissed her, pulling her close, and this time there was no pretense, no performance, no contract. Just two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way. When they finally broke apart, Christopher kept his arms around her. I love you, he said. I've been wanting to say that for weeks, but the timing was never right. The timing is perfect now. Stay with me, Christopher said. Not as an arrangement, not as my fake girlfriend. Stay as my partner, my best friend, the woman I want to build a life with. What about your father? The company? Let me worry about that. My mother was right, he'll come around. And if he doesn't, I have options. Skills, connections, ideas for new ventures. I don't need to be CEO of Reed Enterprises to be successful. You'd really walk away from your family's company? I'd walk away from everything for you, Christopher said simply. But I don't think I'll have to. My father's stubborn, but he's also practical. He knows I'm good at my job, and he knows losing me would hurt the company. He'll adjust, eventually. Over the next few weeks, everything shifted into a new normal. The media frenzy gradually died down, replaced by new scandals and stories. Some outlets painted them as a modern romance, others remained skeptical, but increasingly, people moved on to other topics. Nadia started her online business courses in earnest, with Christopher's enthusiastic support. She began planning her catering business, meeting with the consultant he'd arranged, touring potential kitchen spaces. Hannah became not just her assistant but her friend, helping navigate both the social requirements of being Christopher's girlfriend and the practical needs of starting a business. Richard Reed remained cold but civil, his predicted removal of Christopher from the board never materializing. Eleanor had been right about the votes. But slowly, grudgingly, even he began to soften. Particularly after Nadia catered a small family dinner and his wife wouldn't stop praising the food. You have talent, Richard admitted grudgingly. Real business sense too. I looked over your business plan. It's solid. Thank you, Mr. Reed, Nadia said, surprised. Call me Richard. If you're going to be part of this family, we might as well use first names. 6 months after the charity gala that changed everything, Christopher took Nadia back to the ballroom where they'd met. The space was empty this time, just the two of them in memories. I wanted to bring you back here, Christopher said, leading her to the exact spot where she'd saved his life. To the place where everything started. Why? Christopher knelt down, pulling out a small box. Nadia's heart stopped. Because this is where you gave me my life back, and I want to spend the rest of that life with you. He opened the box, revealing a simple, beautiful ring. Nadia Brown, will you marry me? For real this time, no contracts, no arrangements, just two people who love each other. Nadia dropped to her knees in front of him, tears streaming down her face. Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her as she laughed and cried simultaneously. When they stood, he spun her around the empty ballroom, both of them giddy with joy and possibility. You know everyone's going to say it's too fast, Nadia said. That we barely know each other. Let them say whatever they want. Christopher pulled her close. We know the truth. We know what we've been through, what we've built. That's all that matters. Your father's really going to hate having an ex-maid as a daughter-in-law. My father will get over it. And you were never just a maid, Nadia. You were always so much more. They danced in the empty ballroom, no music except what they could hear in their hearts, no audience except each other. Two people who'd started with a desperate kiss and found something worth more than any contract. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. Sometimes the best things in life start with taking a chance. Sometimes saving someone else's life means finding your own. And sometimes, just sometimes, fairy tales do come true, even for former maids and billionaire bosses who started with a contract and ended with forever. Would you take a chance on love like Nadia did, even if it meant risking everything? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future stories of courage, love, and second chances.